Yeah, like where the lips and the head meet, there's a little bit of shadow, there's a little bit of, yeah. SSS.
Cool.
But I'll go ahead and talk about my game, I guess. That's another thing I'm working on. So let's see if I can try to launch it. Alright. So I am the art guy as far as textures, modeling, all that good stuff. You see that all right? So it's a low poly, procedurally generated RPG roguelike-y thing. So this is a starting camp. You can see dudes. We talk to them, buy stuff. You can interact with objects. But the real fun part is actually when you dive into the dungeon itself proper.
So I'm assuming this isn't made in the Blender game.
No, this is a custom game engine written in Java. It's built on top of libgdx.
So this is all like,
That's awesome. That's great.
So yeah, I come from a pixel art background, so I'm trying to play to my strengths here. This is something I can whip out assets in like 30 minutes an asset. So that's why I went with a low poly, low texture sort of deal. I mean, it would be cool to do it all hand painted, but that takes a lot of time. But in general, this is the kind of the gist of the game. You wander around, you fight stuff. Each time you play, the map is randomly or procedurally generated, so it's different. Item drops, loot, all that good stuff, leveling. But all the low poly stuff, like the beams, some of the camp stuff, is all done in Blender. And I can get out of here real quick, and I'll show you. I made a little file I'm working on. Keep all those props together. Exploding.
Characters where they explode.
It's just animation. It's just sprite animation.
it's
Sprite animation.
is it like particle stuff?
Oh, there are particle assistants when they explode.
Yeah, the like this blood stuff.
Yeah. So I can animate the particle itself, and then we can generate a number of particles that kind of burst forth out of it. But,
If you want to see good blood, you should see overgrowth.
I'm not super into blood, actually. Let me turn off bitmaps because I want the texture sharp. But yeah, I just kind of laid out all my little guys here, doors and trees, and we kind of we wrote a little importer. I exported to OBJ format, and then we pull it in. Eventually, I want to push this further to use like trends and columns and stuff to kind of decorate the level up a little bit more. It's kind of how UDK works.
So, are you like doing the level design?
Right now, a little, not really. Most of my my efforts have been focused on trying to get pieces to make levels, and then
So the art actually,
what?
the assets.
Yeah, the assets, and then once those are mostly in place, we'll start actually making proper levels. Right now, we have
So
just stand-in programmer.
Test.
Yeah, we're in early access right now on Steam, so we're still going. We're still trying to get things put together. Another interesting thing I did was we have the
I like
problem
your
of
trees.
oh, the trees. Yeah, they are just planes.
They run the risk of overproducing assets if you make your assets first before you make your levels.
Yes. Yeah, I mean it's a risk. I'm not trying to do it all up front. I'll make a few, incorporate them. If the other developer likes them, then we keep them. Yeah. I mean, I only spend a few hours a night on this, so it's just a very slow and kind of incremental thing.
I made art assets for 3 iPhone games, or like an iPhone game that's going to be 3 episodes. I made all 3 episodes worth of assets. Programmers made 1 episode and then decided to close the company. So I have 2 episodes worth of stuff that I don't even remember what it looks like now. But I know it's done somewhere out there.
Just give you the source.
You can always
Yeah.
use it for something else.
So you had an interesting problem in that the animation for the weapon attacks was all just, it was in a JSON file, so it was just position and rotation. And trying to animate that stuff by hand is awful. So what I actually did is I wrote a little Python script. So if we run it, and then we go back to the main view, I made myself a little toolbox over here. that just has like the location, rotation. I can reset them real quick. I can play the animation. And I wrote a little JSON exporter to export out to the format we expect. And then that's how I did all the weapon animations that way. I also had a little bit of fun. I took a screenshot of the game, and I used that to try to figure out the actual camera, FOV, and all that stuff, and make sure that everything lined up with engine stuff. So that's how all the I made this little tool to help animate all of the weapons.
So are you, is it cross-platform or is it?
Yeah, it's Linux, Mac, Java, Android, maybe iOS. We libgdx, that's a recent feature they've added. They've used us as kind of a test case, but we're not on the App Store.
What's it called?
Delver.
Yeah.
You think it'd be useful to like pull in stored animations with the Wii, like a Wii controller?
Well, it's written in Java, so I don't know if deploying to the Wii is.
No, but if you just use the Wii to like grab, you know, sword movement.
Maybe. I mean, our system right now, it's just simply keyframed. So what it is we export out all of these keyframes, and then I say, okay, right here, turn on damage, and then right about here, turn it off. So these keyframes are when we actually do the damage. There's no actual finite control. I've played a few games where you can wobble stuff. I'm not a super big fan. I just like, you know, the game allows you to.
No, just for capturing the
Motion
animation.
capture.
Oh.
Not for the game itself.
That might be nice.
Motion capture tends to be, like, at least from my understanding, a lot more work a lot of the time because you have to clean
You guys
stuff.
figured it out. I don't know what the Wii has for developer tools. I got a setup working with Kinect, and there's a program Animate, which, yeah, and it just it lets you have a rig in Blender that, and then you hook your Kinect into your computer. It reads it as like MIDI information, and then you can have your rig moving around in Blender. So then you can just hit auto keyframe and rig does that. We brought it in once and showed it. It was fun, but it's kind of a hard setup.
It kind of worked, I think.
That worked. A little bit.
There's an animation.
Yeah.
The letter N, the letter I.
Yeah, it's the letter M, letter I, and then me. It's made by some cool dudes.
Isn't that one like $200?
Yeah, I bought a license, and then I like used it once.
Has there been more done on, I missed one session of seabug where you presented, showing, you know, where you could use a webcam and stuff, and you move around and have the reaction with the drawing, or the work, the art.
Oh, I think that was the Connect. I don't know. We've got so many weird edge case experiments that I do.
That's something that I wanted to dig into, but I didn't have any information to go and research it.
I think I've shown like probably over 50 projects at seabug that then I never worked on again. Yeah.
It might be cool to capture motion that way, but for me it's just easier to animate because it's just a single plane. So trying to keep the rotation rotated enough towards the camera to make it look right. Because if you get like an edge on of the plane, it looks awful.
Yeah, usually it's more trouble than it's worth, but in theory, if you have the right setup, you can pump animation out really fast.
I'm keeping it at a low level of fidelity too, simply because I can crank stuff out much quicker that way. Cool, that's all I brought.
Also, lo-fi is awesome.
I dig it. I mean, my whole take on it was to take like what the Super Nintendo looked like, and if that could render 3D, that's what this might look like.
Yeah,
Well, but
It's a great look. It's such a great gaming two video game styles together. First person pixel. I love it. Cool. Thank you, Joshua.
Yep.
What time is it?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock? Yeah, who wants to go next? Anybody? Anybody else?
I'll-
Do it.
I just figured it was game. I figured it was
Do
a
it.
good time to go ahead and talk about something a little bit crazy. Hope I got your attention here. That's why I brought my sword, just so I keep your attention. This is actually about a development platform in terms of user interface. And so what I'm working on right now is for the Oculus Drift. Is everyone here really familiar with the Oculus, or?
Yeah. They have one on campus. The guy's not here to show code, but it's
Well, this is a preliminary, I'm just sort of getting started in it, but, and part of the reason I'm doing it is you guys might hear about something or some asset that might be useful for developing, I don't know what's out there yet. But the idea is this, because in the Oculus Drift, and you probably, for those of you that are sort of studying it, a lot of this animation stuff is of course going to easily translate there. But you're going to have to start dealing with the details of the people at the back of their heads, where you won't be able to lose polygons because you will be looking backwards and you'll see people as they go by you. See, you won't have as much control over how you see. And they're really talking about a lot more detail. So we're not going to be able to lose the polygons as much as we could. So we have to think high resolution. But this game that I'm talking about is actually a low resolution game concept. And this is virtual reality sport. So where you're capturing full motion swings in terms of batting. Like how would you capture? You need to capture the whole motion of the batting. And I also have to change the pitch of the racket you might use. You could actually have something like this where the weight would be adjusted. So, but you would have a wand, like either the DS3 or the. Thank you. Distracting me. No.
sorry.
But the other thing was traveling in a 3D environment. How are we going to travel? How are we going to move around? Right? I mean, you're not going to really be able to walk. You walk into a wall, you know. So one idea is they have what's called the Omni, where you walk on a treadmill type of thing that keeps you can go in all directions. But another idea I had was, why not do a hoverboard? Wouldn't it be a lot cooler to move around on a hoverboard? Well, how would we do that in the three-dimensional space? So I said, what about a tilt board? Sort of a four-degree tilt board. And all you do is you push forward to go forward, push back to go back, which is side, which is side. And if you push far enough, you could fly up and fly down, so you'd have three-dimensional. So that's how you'd actually move in the environment instead of worrying about walking. That's just another way of moving in a three-dimensional environment. So what would you do in a three-dimensional environment? Because we also talked about the games we currently play, but what about games we're going to start wanting to play, such as sport games? I mean, has anyone played Wii Sport?
Yeah.
It's pretty fun, but the ball isn't where it's supposed to be, right? If you hit a ball, it's not where it's supposed to be. In this environment, we're finally going to get the environment. The ball's going to be right here. So we need three-dimensional tracking to do that. So what I'm saying that I will do, and I want people to sort of think about, I'm going to develop the 3D mesh for the body, so you can attach any kind of avatar you want into the body. So I'll have the 3D model of the body, and I'll get capture of a stroking motion for ball hitting. So it's super accurate ball action, so you can play ball games. So one idea I have personally is the idea of flying through space, in a team environment. So it's not just you're flying with your friends or whatever, and you're hitting a ball around, and you can do whatever you want to do in terms of the game. But in terms of conceptualization, imagine flying around, hitting a ball. A couple things you can do in that environment is you can change your bat. So instead of hitting it with a tennis racket, you switch it to a ping pong racket. As soon as you hit the ball, the physics of the ball changes to a ping pong ball. But it's like soccer in that you want to just get it in the goal, right? But you can imagine environments you're creating, the assets you're creating for that environment. But this is sort of an idea. If there's any feedback, I'd love to have it.
How do you plan on capturing that sort of fidelity of motion with the arm?
Well, we know that we can do it because we have leap motion.
Okay.
And if I need to put a camera on the platform that we'll have for tilt,
So are you talking real time, or are you talking about?
real time.
Okay.
It's got to be real time. If the first level of games are land-based, that's fine. I mean, everything's going to be first. I want to get it down to the real-time accurate, because it's just not going to work. If we can't capture real time, it's just not going to be fun.
What about the motion capture space of the leaf is fairly small.
No, exactly. I agree with you. In fact, that has to be expanded. So I would assume a cube around that platform would be where we would be aiming. But at least you know exactly where someone is, because when they're standing on this platform, we're going to know exactly where they're standing. So we can use that data plus the visual data, plus we'll know their weight distribution. So when they step forward or step back, we'll have that information from the feet. So we should be able to get a real accurate three-dimensional picture of someone in real time as they're moving through space. So you could use it for movies as well.
So based on the limited range of the leaf, is there a reason that you're contemplating using that instead of a connector and XPI?
What I would suggest is actually getting an old Dance Dance Revolution pad.
That
Because then you
there
got a
you go.
forward and a back and a side and a side.
Well, that would at least be a start.
Well,
That
if you use a Dance Dance Revolution pad, you're going to get problems with virtual reality and motion sickness because you're not directly controlling your movement.
It's gonna be hard too.
You
like
have
Oculus
to.
Rift and seeing
You
where to step.
actually have to. That's why you have to absolutely simulate the entire body. So when you step out, there has to be a foot there, right? And I did notice a guy did do a train ride on Oculus Rift, our roller coaster, and he didn't get sick. He was a little disorientated.
Yeah, but like mouse and keyboards are kind of like are okay, but as soon as you get to something like if you're going upstairs,
Well, that's why we avoid that. This game environment, that's where the thing about anywhere you use a hoverboard, this is the kind of game you'd want to avoid. Is skiing, surfing, rollerblading, what do we call it? Skateboarding, that's what we call it.
yeah. Using something akin
Well,
to
yeah,
a
so the
visual-
environment wouldn't be about going to houses, it wouldn't be about that.
I know. I'm just,
Yeah, because then we don't have to deal with the stairs.
I'm saying like a dance pad though. I don't think
Oh.
that would be as good as.
No, I think you have to have the full weight, and you have to have the, because the dance pad is just like a key, you're walking on a keyboard. I think we need weight distribution. No one knows of anything where they actually have this.
I would consider
like,
looking at the
Bitcoin,
Kinect.
maybe?
I think the
I'm
Kinect's
not
a
sure
good-
what Xbox One is. I'm betting that Microsoft did a little bit and locked down the licensing. But the first generation Kinect, they kept pretty open for licensing because they wanted people to go out and play with it and make lots of experiments.
You have to own the tech, it's licensed.
Yeah, and so like you can look it up. There's the development kit. There's lots of stuff out there for if you just plug a Kinect into your computer, you can start hacking it really fast. People are using them to like as 3D scanners. Like there's some tech conference recently, and like now the big gimmick at tech conferences is having a Kinect where you say, "Hey, come over to our booth. We scan you." That becomes a 3D object using the Kinect, and then we 3D print you, and you have an action figure of yourself.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, yeah, no, I think the 3D Connect, I mean,
Yeah.
people have done more work with the 3D Connect than the
Yeah.
Leap Motion. But it's just the detail, I mean, I'm sure you can get more detail from.
I can if you want, if you'd be interested, I can bring my Kinect in next time, and we can try using it for animation because it is kind of fun to play with.
All right.
And oh yeah, the software I was telling you about is it's very good, and it's also very good for
It integrates really well with Blender.
it also integrates with musical instruments, I believe. So sort of one of the current things that people dislike about Blender is there's some like way old plugin from like 2.47 where you could in real time play a MIDI instrument and have that change what was going on in Blender. And now you can bring it in audio and then after the fact do it, but it's not real time. And so easy.
I have a MIDI keyboard.
But Animate,
That is more often.
Animate just instantly loads in Kinect data and can spit it out really, really fast as like a rig. It does cost money, but so it lets you. It also is a really good starting place in terms of like giving you a visualization of all the different passes that a Kinect has because it has several different sensors.
Right.
So you put it down view now and I'll turn back.
It's on use mode.
I'm gonna add it. It should.
So here you set up how a Connect is going to input. There's a script that you load, and then that sort of becomes target point. And then there you go. And they have some default rigs also.
I'm doing motion captures. With one word, I settled it. Sorry for the background noise. I didn't understand how much to do.
On my YouTube channel. I probably can't log in to find it because just finding it through my old. Alright. It was like a way old demo. This was when I like first got it to work. And so like I did like the motion capture thing of like taking a photo of like this 4-year-old girl, a friend of mine's kid. And it's funny because like kids, you're trying to do this with them and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do everything possible, and they totally screw up the sensor. So she's constantly like going out of frame. And crossing.
Apparently not. Can you show us?
Yeah, 2 connects you got to do it, right?
There's Clementine's cool dance move. So yeah, if you hit auto keyframe in Blender, you can like get a really fast mocap studio out of this. Really low quality mocap studio. And that's really my brand, is low quality, fast everything.
It's okay.
Oh yeah, it's my Valentine's Day.
And that's when you throw up the taco.
Valentine's Day. Taco Bell didn't send me any free stuff for that.
No way.
So yeah, I would especially with the Xbox One. There's probably some Xbox 360 Connects that are going pretty cheap
You
now.
could
I bet you
search
can.
Xbox,
$40 now.
Xbox One Connect dev kit.
Those ones aren't out yet. They're really, really new.
Yeah, probably spend.
We got more.
Really? They don't have them?
No, they're not releasing it. The USB cable isn't even remotely compatible. You actually have to plug it into like a different power brick. So you turn it to the standard USB.
Microsoft's making a lot of good decisions. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah.
You can also get a time of flight
The
camera from Intel.
resolution is the same as.
And then
like,
there's
the
an
actual
SDK that goes along with that as well.
recapture
It's
resolution is
high
the same as
resolution.
the first one. It's only the
What kind of
video
camera?
resolution.
Time of flight, so I think the
And
Xbox
they
One
count
is a time of flight
distance.
camera.
So
What is
instead
time of
of
flight
depth,
camera?
like,
What's the characteristic of it? Just like gives you.
So it modulates
is
light
like,
signal,
oh,
and then
it
it
doesn't look
counts
very well past
the phase difference between the modulated
But
signal
you
and the
still see
prime.
it.
It pretty much just times
It's like 13
when the
feet.
photon leaves the sensor with the emitter, and when it comes back, so it gets.
I wish they would just,
information
at the
from
very
time of
least,
flight of the
make
photon versus
a really
starting
good
flight, like the
program
Connect
for
does.
using it, and then
So the original Connect
Or
overlays a
on the
pattern.
website.
Oh,
I
And it
want
looks
them to make
at
money
where it
off of
falls
me
over,
using them.
the scene to figure out what the structure is. So the time of flight camera from Intel is a much higher spatial resolution.
For contractors.
But then the original Connect,
Time
of flight. Time of
I'm
flight.
friends with the Animate guys, so I'll ask if they'll sponsor seabug and give us a free license. Who knows? Maybe.
We'll work on it.
Alright.
All right, well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark. The future. Technology. What are we doing today? What? Right.
So I've just recently kind of got back into the industry of actually working doing 3D, and I've been doing some motion graphics and a lot of stuff in Blender. And I just got to put together a reel kind of everything that I've been doing.
regular versus this one?
I will after I sign it. I have to log into the Google Drive.
I couldn't log in to YouTube because I've been Chromecasting live drawing sessions. So like now my YouTube homepage just there's all these suggestions for what to watch, and it's just like naked women standing still.
Nice.
But it's educational, man.
That's why I turned my history off
Alright.
and everything. Is that freestyle? That was back in London. I go 360, but the number's better.
Huh?
360 must be 360 times better than Xbox One, it's just based on that.
Right?
No,
Pretty
it's
much
just,
the forest naming decision.
Xbox One is in radians.
That's all. But a lot of Blender graphics that you don't really see too many other people doing. So all of the compositing was done in Blender, with exception to the time-lapse shot. I had to do that time-lapse in After Effects. And some of the,
What's the fancy plugin for After Effects time lapse?
yeah, it's called time lapse. It's just a built-in effect. But that pretty much bricked my computer for like 6 hours. I was compressing 10 minutes of video, 10 minutes of HD video into 15 seconds. And I had to use 100 samples of motion blur, and it used 100% of my processor and 22 gigs of RAM for 6 hours.
So after motion blur, the which plugin, which,
It's an After Effects plugin.
which
Well,
one?
it's not even a plugin, it's just you just go into Effects, Time,
Which one?
it's just called Time Warp.
Time Warp.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the effects list. But then I went back and this was actually done with dynamic paint. So I did the time warp in After Effects and output the image sequence, and then went into Blender and just keyed a plane over it, and then went through and used dynamic paint to get all the dots to appear. And I just set up a little rig where I had an empty and a ball, and for each frame where somebody was standing in front of one of the products, I'd move it into place, and then I'd just copy the keyframes of the ball just dropping down onto the plane. Just spent probably an hour kind of faux tracking every touch on here, and then I had an image sequence of these blobs going from solid white screen up to where I've got the red became black, and then I just put that in the compositor and ran a color ramp over it going from blue to red.
I was thinking of the opposite, which is slow motion, which is Twixtor. The Twixtor plugin for After Effects.
Oh, okay.
Does super slow motion, and you can stretch like 1/60th keyframes out to like 1/6000th.
Oh, yeah. No, that's definitely an interesting one. I think I've seen that. This
How'd
shows
you do the heat map?
the heat map.
He just explained
Did you
it.
just explain that?
I did. I used dynamic paint. So I basically created I had the plane tracked, which wasn't really hard because the camera movement was pretty much linear by the time I time warped it. So I just put a plane in there, went to the beginning, put it in place, and then went to the end and moved the camera down. And then I basically just animated a ball just daubing over it every time somebody walked in front of one of the games.
That controller is a lot more popular than the other one.
Yeah, the company that I work for focuses on tracking. And this actually uses the Kinect to track what products people are looking at and touching on a particular shelf. So here we wanted to showcase how companies can use that technology to track what products are getting the most traffic, to be able to reconfigure their marketing displays and take products that might not be on an end cap, but they're getting a lot of traffic, and then move them to the end cap to push the traffic even more.
What company do you work for?
Tech. It's a software company in Redmond.
Cool.